Greetings, discussion with the writer Fred right here at Black Video News in San Antonio, Texas. Today my guest is a very special person, Miss Sandra Jala, who is a breast cancer survivor, and she wants to discuss that for all our viewers and just how dangerous and terrible that disease is. But before we get to Sandra, let me set the record straight. In the last presidential debate, Donald Trump stated that he has done more for black people than any president since Abraham Lincoln. Well, Donald, that's not true. It's just another lie. The president who's done more for black people since Abraham Lincoln is President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who orchestrated the passage of the Civil Rights Bill in 1964, which led to the breakdown of segregation throughout the South. And then he was the one who orchestrated the passage of the Voting Rights Bill in 1965, which has led to thousands of blacks being elected to local, state, and national office. He also led the fight to desegregate housing through the Fair Housing Act, and also led the fight on poverty, which led to a lot of blacks moving from up to the middle class. So, Donald, you just didn't do it. Now, let me get to my very special guest. This is Fred Williams with Discussions with the writer Fred. My guest today, as I mentioned earlier, is Miss Sandra Jala, who is a breast cancer survivor. And she's much more than that also. She is an author, an inspirational speaker. She's the First Lady of West End Baptist Church. Reverend Dr. Michael Jala is the pastor. Welcome to Discussions with the writer Fred.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon.
And let's start out by you telling our viewers your books, what you've written.
Okay, my pleasure. Actually, I've been blessed to chronicle my cancer journey. My first book is The Joy in My Journey with Cancer. And this book basically has four major parts. One is just to share the experience. How do you handle it? How do you talk to your family? So I journal my experience going through that. Secondly is educational, because when I was going through cancer, I could not find a book that would explain to me what was going to happen, and certainly from a spiritual perspective, because when you're on a journey such as cancer, you definitely need this Holy Spirit. I'm Christian and I'm a believer, and so I couldn't find that. Third, I chose to embrace cancer and not let it overtake me. So therefore, I put in motivational scriptures that would help others that are going along the journey. And fourth, I gave tips and techniques for what do you do when you lose your hair? What do you do when the white sores come in your mouth? So, the joy in my journey with cancer. My second book is coming out November 1st.
Okay.
Yes, sir. From 6 to 8 p.m. on Amazon.com. It's titled Overcomers. And Overcomers is a Bible study. It's a study of 7 inspirational women in the Bible and the issues they had to overcome.
Great.
Yes, sir. And then third, I want to share Wings. Wings is a nonprofit organization. It stands for Women Involved in Nurturing, Sharing, and Giving. It's a nonprofit, and it provides insurance for uninsured women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, who are at the poverty level. Many times these women have nowhere else to go. They've lost all hope, and Wings is there to support them. And I'm happy to show our inaugural issue of our magazine. It's our commemorative issue of our magazine, filled with stories and motivation for women.
Well, you're a busy lady.
I am busy.
Yeah, you didn't have no time.
I'm busy and blessed.
You didn't have any time for that cancer.
No, sir. I chose to embrace it and not let it overtake me. It's a mental thing.
So let's talk about it.
Okay.
When you first found out about it, how did you respond and things like that?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Certainly. I was devastated, as anyone would be, because no one in my family had ever had cancer. I had no experience with cancer at all. Heart attack, stroke, I could have believed it if I had awakened in an ambulance and they said you just had a stroke or a heart attack. I could believe that. But when they said, Miss Jala, we suspect that there is a cancer in your right breast, I was devastated.
Yes.
Totally devastated. Yes.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so, how did you proceed from that?
Very good. At first, the shock, you go through the same stages as you would with grief. First, the shock of hearing the news. I found myself in my car. I literally sat in my car for 2 hours. 2 or 2.5 hours. I lost track of time.
Before you told your husband?
Before I even left the parking lot of the clinic. Yeah. I sat there, and that's when I had a talk with Jesus.
Okay.
I had a little talk with Jesus. You remember that song? I had a little talk with Jesus.
That always helps.
Yes, it does. I had a little talk with Jesus. And I decided at that moment, Lord, if that's how you need to use me, use me. And so I chose at that time, because I talk about positive thinking and the power of positive thinking.
That's important.
That it's very important. And I'm a believer, and so I have faith and I have trust. And so I decided in my car that day that if that was the journey God needed to take me on, He tells us in His word that no weapon formed against us is going to prosper. And so even this cancer, which was in my body, I resolved from that day that I would embrace it and not let it embrace me. And so after that, I shared it with my husband, I shared it with my 2 daughters, got on a conference call and shared it with my entire family.
Okay.
Yes,
how did
sir.
they respond to it?
Well, at first, like anything else, many times the way you receive it is the way people will respond to it.
That's a good point.
Yes, it is. Yes. And so because I had chosen, even when I heard my nieces start with the sniffling, it's like, okay, we're not going to be crying here. I've got tasks for everybody to do, so I put them all to work.
Okay.
I gave some of them research, because I'm blessed to have 3 doctors in my family.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. I gave some of them research. I gave some of them validation. I gave them all tasks to tell them that this is a journey that all of us we're going to walk on.
Right.
And I want to say something about that, because many times, especially us as African Americans, yes, especially us as African Americans, many times we want to run away from it, we want to shy away from it, we want to hide it, we don't want anyone to know, and that is absolutely the worst thing that we can do. The best thing that you can do is to go make sure you're getting your mammograms, you're getting your checkups, make sure you're on top of your medical history and are eating right, and once, if you get that news, the best thing to do is to embrace it, not try and hide it, share it with your family. That's my belief.
Okay. Was it discovered through a mammogram?
It was discovered through a mammogram. It's very interesting, because at the time I was a business executive, so I was very busy. And I had received one of those letters that we as women receive, because I get my mammogram every year, usually around the Christmas time. And so I had received one of those letters, and I almost wrote it off. It's like, I've received these letters before. They're just not, every time I go in, there's no problem. And this particular day, I was so busy, it's like, wow, I don't think I have time. But I went in anyway. And that's when had I not gone, that's why this is so important, especially for those of us who are so busy, we have to fit it in. Because had I not gone that day for the follow-up, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is.
While you're telling the story, I was thinking, wow, God talked to her, told her to go get that mammogram.
Said that was the Spirit.
Yeah.
The still voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my ear. Absolutely. Yeah. And if I had not gone, I probably wouldn't be here, because although my cancer was very small, I never felt it. I did my monthly exams, but I never felt the cancer in my breast. It was just that small, but it was aggressive. It had already spread into 2 of my lymph nodes. And so had I missed that appointment, I probably wouldn't be having this wonderful conversation with you and the audience today.
Let's talk about the treatment. What was the treatment that you went through?
I went through a very aggressive treatment. As I mentioned, my cancer was very aggressive. So I started out with 4 rounds of chemotherapy. They have a type of chemotherapy that's called the Red Devil. The Red Devil is that chemo that takes out anything that's growing. My hair, my eyelashes, my eyebrows, the hair on it took off all hair. After those 4 rounds, I went through 12 rounds of what they call Taxol chemo treatment. No, I don't look anything like what I've been through, sir. I went through 12 rounds of Taxol. And after that, It's when I had the mastectomy and reconstruction surgery, and to seal it, I went through 29 days of radiotherapy.
Wow.
Yes, yes. And so that's and I want to talk to the people right now, if you don't mind.
Oh, go right
I want to
ahead.
talk to the people right now because it's so important and we want to run away from it. But you too, all things can work together if we embrace it, if we acknowledge it, keep a positive mental attitude. Actually, in my book, I have scriptures that will help along the way because it's so important that we acknowledge it and that we take care of it.
And what's your, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Are
Of
you?
course, it's a journey. I go every 6 months to get either a CT scan or a PET scan, and so you just never know.
And
Never
right
know
now you're
those
doing
outcomes. I'm good. To God be the glory.
To God be
Yes,
the glory.
sir. To God be the glory.
Well, is there anything else you want to say on the cancer?
Well, yes, there is one other thing I want to say, and this is to the men, especially African American men who are listening to us. We know that cancer among women, breast cancer, is there, but men can also get breast cancer. In fact, 1 out of every 100,000 men, as compared to every 1 out of 8 women, 1 out of every 100,000 men will get breast cancer. And the rise is in African American men. And that statistic goes up to 2.81% for African American men. So, brothers, you need to check yourselves out too. And if you feel anything unusual, you need to report it to your doctor.
You know, before we take a break, I just, something dawned on me. What does this have to do with your eating habits?
Eating habits is very important, and I'm glad you brought that up because African American women contract cancer about at the same rate as white women. However, African American women die at a rate 40% greater than white women, and a big part of that has to do with our diet.
The diet?
So diet is very important. Diet is very important. In general, we need to be looking at our health, our eating habits, our physical activity, and so forth. And because as a race of our people are already prone, if there is a heredity of heart trouble, heart conditions, diabetes, that is heredity. So some of that's in there anyway. So that's why it's so important that we make sure our eating habits are up to par. Yes, sir.
You know, talk about that. I went to my doctor, and I have high blood pressure.
Okay.
And he says, well, you know, it's hereditary for black folks to have high blood pressure. I said, no, doctor. We have high blood pressure because of all the crap we have to deal with living in America.
That too.
But that note, we're going to take a
That's
break. And we're going to come back and ask Sandra to tell us about the great movement of black women in the political arena. We'll be right back with you.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
I work out every day. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 24. COVID won't kill me.
I have antibodies. COVID won't kill
It's
me.
been a long week. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 25. COVID won't kill me.
I'm partying outside. COVID won't kill
I don't
me.
need to wear a mask around my friends. COVID won't kill
I'm
me.
23. COVID won't kill me.
If I haven't gotten it yet, COVID won't kill me.
I'm young. COVID won't kill me.
Famous last words. Don't let them be yours. Socially distance. Mask up, America.
One, 6, or a dozen trees. No job is too big or too small. Booker's Tree Services is a certified arborist and state licensed company. On the ground or in the air, we are here to take care of all your tree needs, from stump grinding, tree pruning, tree trimming, tree removal, and much more. Call the professionals to help manage your commercial or residential needs. Don't let your trees make you nervous. Call for a free estimate today at Booker Tree Service, 210-657-8085.
Does your life matter? Education, health, and finance can determine your future and explain your past. Pick up the latest edition of Black Life Texas Magazine, a monthly outlook on life with an African American focus. Life is what you make it, so live it in the black.
Welcome back to Discussions with the Writer Fred, right here at Black Video News in San Antonio, Texas. And I am so pleased to have Sandra Jalla as my guest today. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I don't know how you couldn't, but she just has the most tremendous smile. And
Thank you.
It's like a joy. It's like a joy that just seems to ooze right out of you.
Thank you. Actually, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Actually, is my favorite scripture. And God has given me the gift of hospitality, and so that just naturally comes out for me. So thank you for that.
Does that match with your husband?
Yes, absolutely. We're a dynamic duo.
You are?
Yes, we are. Both of us have a joy that's an unspeakable joy, and we get in there together to do the work that God has called for us to do. We enjoy doing it.
Did you meet here in San Antonio?
No, sir. We met in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay. You all
And the
from
Lord
Dallas?
brought us to San Antonio to pastor the church at West End.
Oh, great.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So talk about the church. Before we get into the politics, how did your congregation respond when they found out that you had that terrible disease?
Thank you for asking that. Because I fully disclosed, I went to my congregation and explained to them that I would be going through a journey, a cancer journey, and how important it was. Because of my gift of hospitality, I'm a natural hugger, and so I wanted them to know that as I was going through this cancer journey, that the rate of infection is very high and that I could not hug like I would normally hug. And they embraced me. I truly believe teamwork makes the dream work, and they were able to work with me. They made sure I had sanitizer. They made sure I had tissues, because I'm a crier. They made sure I had tissues. And the third thing is, most importantly, I think they, through my experience, could be strengthened to see that you really can embrace something as difficult as a cancer and continue in serving, because I never stopped.
Okay.
I kept
Absolutely.
going. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And it's nice when you hear about that kind of feeling among people.
Yes, sir.
You know, we live in such a, I don't know, it's confrontational world today. When you see that happen, it just makes you feel good inside.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So
yes.
talk about this confrontational world. Let's turn to the subject of politics and elections for just a little while. How did you feel when you found out that Biden had taken Kamala Harris as his vice presidential mayor?
Thank you. Exceedingly joyful. I was then and continue to be just overwhelmed, overjoyed to know that an African American woman has the opportunity to be the second in command of our country. And I want to plug, you see, I've got my mask here. It says stroll to the polls. If you have not strolled to the poll, you need to make sure you're doing that. And the second part of this says, Madam Vice President Harris 2020.
Okay,
and so,
great.
yes, I think it's great and certainly an opportunity for not only African American women, but African Americans in general.
Okay. And then let's talk about, how did you feel as a black woman having a black woman as the first lady of this country for 8
Oh my
years?
God, Michelle, my role model. I just to have the intelligence, the enthusiasm, the leadership, the ability to talk with foreign dictators and be able to go into an elementary school and challenge young children, the full spectrum of it. And then for me is especially exciting because I was a little girl in Montgomery, Alabama, growing up in the 60s when Dr. King came through and the rioters came through. And I didn't understand, but to see that come to full fruition, to see that we can now vote And I encourage you again, I have to put a plug for voting, because a lot of our second generation are saying, I don't have anything to vote for, I'm not motivated. Well, your vote makes a difference. It's important that we all go. So it's really thrills me to know that I could come from that little girl who was 10 years old when they came marching down Jackson Street in Montgomery, Alabama, with all the black people on the street and the guards on their horses, to know now we have we've had our first African-American president and first lady, and now to know that we may have the second in charge to be an African-American woman. There is no greater joy.
Yeah. And I think one of the great residuals of those two ladies is for our young girls,
Yes,
that they can have role models.
wonderful.
Because so many times they grow up not believing in themselves.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, they think the only thing they have to offer is sex.
Yes,
And we know there's predators out there who will
absolutely.
take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And so we really are fortunate to have had Michelle Obama, who I'm sure had a great deal of influence on young black girls. And now we have Michelle Obama, who may become the
Kamala,
first
yes.
black president
Yes.
of this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that you talk about young girls, and here is where I want to plug for those of us who have matured and who are ladies of etiquette and who can share with our young girls. In addition to having those national role models, I want to challenge those of us who have girls coming along to take the time to help nurture those girls, to help show them how to walk, how to talk, how to sit, how to present themselves
Yes.
in a wholesome manner, so that they can have the standards to say, I don't have to do that. And with that, I'm sorry, I'm going to challenge the daddies too.
Please
I work
do.
with young girls as
Please
debutantes,
do.
okay?
Please
I'm
do.
going to challenge the dads also and say, daddies, date your daughters. Date your daughters. Go buy them pearl earrings, buy them Chanel necklaces, so that they know that the joy that they get is not in giving their body, is the joy is in having a relationship for someone who's going to value them and who will take the time to elevate them in a relationship. So daddies, date your daughter. So when Joe Blow comes along and wants to blow the horn outside for her to come outside, she can say, oh no, that's not the standard I have. Because when my daddy dates me, he takes me to the car, he opens the door, and he makes sure I'm secure.
Yes,
I'm glad you
absolutely.
mentioned that.
Yes,
because that's
definitely.
I love working with young girls.
Yeah. And just to hitchhike on that, we as black men have a lot of work we need to do with our young men.
Yes.
They're getting
My
they
God.
are getting out of control.
Yes.
And so something drastic is going to have to be done.
Yes.
Because they should. The most important persons that they should respect, number one, is their mother, and then their girlfriend and future wife.
So true.
And
Absolutely agree.
I don't know, you know as well as I do that that's a real problem that our young girls face. One of the problems is our young girls are, black women are some of the most educated in the country. And the men need to join along so
Come
that
on along,
an
brothers.
educated woman can have an educated man
Yes.
on her arm.
Absolutely.
And not someone who doesn't know what the 4th of July was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And I think that we're making progress. We had Obama
Yes.
as president and Michelle as first lady, and now we're going to have, knock on wood, get out and vote the right way.
Right.
We're going to have Kamala Harris as vice president. We are making progress.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
I want to thank you, Sandra, and let
My
you,
pleasure.
Your final word to the reviewers.
My final word is get out and vote. If you have not voted, now is the time. Early voting is still going on. If you're going to be intimidated by November 3rd, get out now, vote, vote, and vote. Our lives, your children's lives, your grandchildren's lives depend on it. That's
Thank
my
you.
ending message.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
We've had the opportunity of a beautiful, beautiful, personal lady here with us today.
Thank you.
please listen to what she's saying and follow her advice, because if you do, you can only do nothing but good things like her.
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in to Discussions with the Writer Fred, telling our story our way.